So everybody, hi everybody. We're here with Michelle, and Darnie talk a little bit about our club, but you're a member, so you don't know. We were hoping that some other people would join in, so she can talk a little bit about the club to the people who don't know about the club. But in any case, here's Michelle, and she has been in this realm of helping women. Probably, I think you mentioned like 20 years or so.
It's been a good while. I think I started my career as a therapist in 2001. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's been
it's
20
been
years.
a couple decades, and I've
Yes.
had some kind of career transitions over that time, but I've never lost focus of really wanting to empower women to really connect and feel like they have some influence, right, over their own energy and their own thoughts and feelings. Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit more about yourself, or you want to go right into it? It's all yours.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to introduce myself, just so people aren't like, who is this lady and why should I believe anything she has to tell me, right, about balance? So, like Connie said, my name is Michelle Fraley. I live here in Tucson, Arizona. I work as an integrative wellness specialist, and what that means is I have a background in clinical psychology. So I work as a counselor and therapist, but I'm also a certified holistic life coach, which means I really love actionable strategies and tools that I can give my clients to really make them feel like they're making progress. I'm also such a believer in the mind body connection, recognizing that we really can't separate out what's going on with our thoughts, our feelings, and our body. So, let's see, if about 12 years ago, I became a certified yoga instructor and I incorporate some mind body into my work with clients. And just 3 short years ago, I became a certified meditation coach as well. So I really like to pull from a lot of different sort of holistic modalities when I'm working with clients to really optimize their well being. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a fellow mom. I'm the proud owner of a teenage daughter, and that's been a lot of fun and a great journey. Um, yeah, so we can go ahead and just dive in. Like I said, I love to give actionable strategies and tools, and I'm going to be giving you some of those today. So if you're watching this and you think you might want to refer back to some of these tools, I like to call them your toolbox. Might be a good idea to run and grab yourself a journal or some paper and a pen, or even just open up the notes app on your phone so you can jot a few things down. So the title of the lecture I'm going to give you today is called "Living a True Life in Balance," and I created this talk especially for women, because I noticed that people are coming to me in my private practice, really starting to feel right out of balance, feeling like decisions that they're making about where they're spending their time and energy are causing them a lot of emotional stress. I'm seeing burnout, right? Exhaustion, lack of boundaries, sometimes communication struggles. So I really, really think that empowering you, letting you know that you are ultimately in charge of your energy. And I want to be really clear that I know when I'm talking about energy, that might seem kind of woo woo, like energy. What's that? When I'm talking about energy, I'm talking about what or how we are spending our time, where we are choosing to give our attention. So, when I'm talking about expending energy, I'm talking about our behaviors and our actions, but I'm also talking about what goes on up here. Our thoughts really do expend a lot of emotional energy, right? Whether our thoughts are things like rumination, overthinking, right? Maybe taking things too personally, catastrophizing, potentially negative self talk, right? Being overly critical of oneself. All of those things expend our emotional energy, right? We might not be doing a lot or moving our body a lot, but think of one of those days where you've been on the hamster wheel, right? All day up here. How do we feel? Right? We feel drained, Maybe we're having trouble focusing, right? Maybe we're lacking motivation. Maybe we're irritable, right? Or easily triggered. And those are some examples of emotional exhaustion and being out of balance. Okay. So I know balance is a little bit of an abstract word, right? How do I know if my energy is in balance? How do I know if I'm living in balance? And I'm assuming, right, since this is a mom's group, that everybody here is a parent, right? And that's a really noble job, right? We all give a lot of time and energy to raising our children, but that's not the only part of who we are, right? We are all multidimensional beings. And I look at balance as this idea that we can um, create a ratio, we can create a sort of recipe for distributing our time and our energy among all of these beautiful dimensions of who we are in a way that really promotes harmony in our lives, cooperation, rather than competition, right? Rather than feeling like we're always being pulled in different directions, or we're having to make these either or choices, right? Either I'm spending time on self care and I'm being a bad mother, right? I'm being selfish, right? Or I'm spending all of this time, raising my children and I'm not taking care of my body or mind at all, right? Recognizing that all of these different dimensions, they don't have to be mutually exclusive, right? We can learn how to create sort of, like I said, in ingredients or a recipe that works for us. And so, first thing I'm going to need you to do when we're talking about creating this balance is let go of the idea that balance means giving equal proportion to all of these different areas of your life. That's not realistic. It's not about giving equal proportion to all of these different areas of our life. It is about giving proportional amounts of time and energy to these different areas of our life based on what matters most to us right now. It's about recognizing what your priorities are and then allocating your time and energy wisely. And that's what the tools and strategies I'm going to give you today are going to allow you to do, right? It's going to allow you to help create some awareness about how you're using your energy and how you might be able to use it more wisely to create more balance in your life. Okay. And I want to let everyone know that I'm going to stick around after the talk for a little bit to do any Q&A. So as we go through this talk today, and as I go through these strategies, I really want you to pay attention to the ones that sort of spike your interest and your attention, which ones really resonate with you, right? And maybe we can help you get a little bit more clarity on those at the end. So I just want to mention a few reasons why taking this time to create a balance of your physical and emotional energy is so important. I'm really going to tell you three reasons. I mean, there's tons of reasons why it's important to create balance in your life, but I'm going to give you my top three. The first one is that when we are living in balance, it's a lot easier for us to cope successfully with life's challenges. And that's something called emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is a word that's really become sort of rising to the top of self-help right now, especially post-pandemic, right? How can we become better equipped to sort of deal with change or deal with uncertainty or go with the flow, right? Roll with the punches, if you will. And there's been a lot of talk, right? How can we strengthen our emotional resilience? And one great way to strengthen your emotional resilience is to start creating more balance in your life. When you are physically and emotionally exhausted, right, because you're out of balance, it's very difficult to cope with life's sort of inevitable challenges and ups and downs. Usually when we're emotionally exhausted or physically exhausted and life gives us a challenge, right? Like a flat tire or, hitting every red light on the way to school drop off, right? That's when we maybe are easily triggered. Maybe we overreact, and that can sort of start that shame guilt cycle, right? Where we overreact because we're exhausted and then we feel guilt and shame about it later. So I just want to sort of stop that process by creating more balance. Second reason why creating this balance is so important is it really can help prevent burnout. Okay. Burnout is so, oh, it's not talked about enough in the realm of general life. We talk about burnout a lot in terms of work life and career. But burnout can happen really with anything. And here's sort of a fun fact about burnout. Burnout can happen with things that you really like, right? Like you can really like your job and still experience burnout, right? You can really love a hobby like running and experience burnout. You can really, really like your children and experience burnout. And that's because, like I said at the beginning, we're all multidimensional. Like I look at us each like this beautiful 100-piece puzzle, right? That comes together and fits together to make us uniquely us, right? Burnout happens when we're taking the majority of our physical and emotional energy and we're putting it on one or two pieces of that puzzle, right? That doesn't make us feel complete. That doesn't make us feel whole. And it's no wonder, right, where we start feeling disconnected from ourselves or from our purpose, right? So, learning how to create this balance in our life is a really great way to not only help prevent burnout, but can also help pull us out of a burnout stage. Okay. And then the last reason why I think it's so important we spend this time talking about balance is I'm a big believer in growth, in personal growth, right? As a therapist, as a coach, I really think we are put here to grow, to evolve, to learn, to improve. But if we're just getting through each day, right? If we're just in survival mode, where is any room in your life for growth? Where is any room in your life for evolution? Right. So it kind of reminds me of this quote I like that says, don't forget to live while you're busy surviving. Right. And when we're in survival mode, we do sort of forget to live. We forget to seek abundance. Okay. But when we create this balance in our life, when we feel more harmonious, mind, body, spirit, right, that allows us this freedom, this safety to start seeking abundance and growing. Okay. So here's the thing, balance doesn't just happen. We have to work at it, just like we have to work at other things that we really care about, like the quality of our relationships or our physical bodies, right? It takes a little bit of work and effort. But the tools I give you today are going to take some of the guesswork out of how to create balance. And I can give you the tools, but I can't do the work for you, right? So I want to let you know that you don't have to do a lot. We're talking about balance, which means you don't have to go do all 10 strategies tomorrow. That wouldn't be balance, right? Also, doing zero strategies, not balance, right? What I want you to do is as we go through these, again, think of the ones that really you connect with and then apply those. And I want to tell you, there's two reasons in general that I notice people really resist making some of the changes in their life that they need to make. And the first reason is they overestimate the amount of time or energy necessary to see a change, right? They really think that they have to make this big effort to see a change, and it feels overwhelming. So instead, they do nothing, right? But in psychology, we have a law, and it's simply called the law of little things. And it means little changes done with consistency are what produce big results. So you don't have to do a lot. You just have to do some, and you have to do some regularly. Sort of, we've all heard like go big or go home. You don't have to go big, you just have to go. You just have to show up and do the strategy. It doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10 every time. Okay. Sometimes we all always talk about, I'm going to give it my all. Sometimes it's okay to give it your some, give it a little bit. Okay. The second reason I see clients and people just sort of resist making the changes that they need to make is they wait for the universe to like roll out this red carpet for them, right? They wait for that perfect time, right? Like I'll start making changes after the holidays. I'll start making changes just as soon as the kids are back in school. I'll start making changes just as soon as work's not so crazy, just as soon as the bathroom remodel is done, just as soon as my parents' visit is over, right? We know good and well that there's always going to be something, right? That's going to be a little bit of an obstacle for us. So instead of waiting for the perfect time, just do what you can now. Okay. All right. So let's dive into the strategies here. And like I said, we'll have time at the end for some Q&A if you have questions about any of the strategies in particular. So the first one I'm going to give you is so important and so vital. It's actually kind of the foundational piece to creating a true life in balance. And it's something I'll actually probably refer back to when I talk about the other 9 strategies. And that first strategy is to become deeply connected with what matters most to you. Become deeply aware of what your values and priorities are. We really want to start making sure that we are spending our precious time and our precious energy on the things in life that matter most to us. So in my private practice, this is something that I focus on heavily with clients. And I have like tools and worksheets that we use. And usually my clients walk away with, like the top 5 things, right, that really bring their life meaning and purpose. The top 5 things that they really want to be intentional about directing their time and energy towards, right? And we can sort of work through those and how they're connected to their thoughts and behaviors. I'm going to tell you that becoming deeply connected with what matters most to you and what your priorities are, it changes the way you move through your human experience. It just really does. I mean, it helps you, right, budget your time more wisely. It helps you make decisions more easily when you know what truly matters to you. It also helps you let go of the judgment of other people a little bit more easily, right? If I'm deeply connected to what truly matters to me and I make a choice and Jennifer, right, doesn't understand why I made this choice, that's okay. Jennifer doesn't need to understand, right? I understand why I made this choice because I know it matters deeply to me. Jennifer probably has her own list, right, of what matters most to her, right? So it's sort of this idea that we start to learn to keep our eyes on our own paper, right, and start living for what truly matters to us, rather than kind of peeking over at what's going on our neighbor's paper and what matters most to them. But for you all, I want to make sure that you have some tools to start this process of figuring out what matters most to you. So I'm going to give you a few journaling prompts that can be really helpful for a little bit of sort of self-discovery, introspection. And the first one is, who do you admire and why? Right? Who or what inspires me? Sort of this idea that we can sometimes find our meaning and our purpose in our heroes, right? When we admire someone, when we are inspired by something, that can really give us a clue that that might be something that really matters to us. That might be connected to one of our core values. Okay. Another great question to ask yourself is, when was a time where I truly felt alive, right? When was a time where I truly felt like I was being the best version of me, right? And I like to have clients really describe that in detail, right? What were you doing? Who are you with? What type of thoughts were you having? And especially, what type of skills or qualities of yours were you showcasing? Right. And sometimes we call that sort of a metaphorical mountaintop experience, right? Like, when did you really feel like you were on top of the world? And for some people, it's like a one time experience, like an event. For other people, it might be a time period in their life, but that can give us a little bit of insight, right, into what truly matters most to us. Okay. So that's strategy number one. Like I said, and I'm going to refer back to that because that concept of connecting with your priorities is going to be this foundational piece for some of the other strategies. Strategy number two, I want you to start paying attention to what you're consuming. Okay. Every single time you consume something, you are choosing to give it your attention. And I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard this, but where your attention goes, your energy flows, right? So we really want to be very intentional about what we are giving our attention to. I like to look at it in these sort of financial terms. Am I getting a good return for my investment of my time and energy, right? Am I getting something back? Am I getting, connection, joy, growth, learning, inspiration, money? Am I getting something back? Or when I'm giving something my time and energy, is it detracting? Is it subtracting from my overall energy? Right. And of course, by consumption, I am talking about what we put in our bodies, right? What we eat, what we drink, what substances we might put in our bodies. Like, how is that making us feel? Right. But besides what we put in our mouths, we consume other ways every day. We all have a visual diet, right? What are we consuming visually every day? What type of social media are we looking at? What type of news are we reading? What type of beauty or body images are we exposing ourselves to? Right? How is that making us feel? Are we getting a good return for our investment of energy there? Okay. And then we also have an auditory diet every day. What are we listening to? What type of news? What type of podcast? What type of people and conversations are we a part of? Is there a lot of negativity, complaining, criticism, right? How is that making us feel? So I want you to start becoming really aware of what you are choosing to invest your time and attention to when you're consuming, right? Either with your mouth, your eyes, or your ears. All right, third strategy. If you want to create more balance in your life, I need you to spend time alone, right? I need you to spend time with yourself. And it's not really just the being alone part that's important. It's spending time with yourself like you are somebody you love and care about, like you are somebody who deserves to be nurtured. I mean, we're all women in this group. And what do we do as women all day, both, professionally and personally, is we tend to the needs of others, right? How are you today? How can I help you today? What do you need from me today? What can I do for you today? Right? We do that with other people all day long, whether it's our children, our partners, our friends, our parents, our neighbors, the teachers at our kids' schools, right? All of it. But you know what most people do when they get alone? They don't check in, they check out. They scroll, they stream, they check off boxes on their to-do list, they get things done, right? But I want you to check in. I want you to start, even if it's small, even if it's small, I want you to start giving yourself that same care and concern and curiosity that you give other people. You're just as worthy. You're just as worthy of being heard and having your needs met, right? But sometimes it's hard to get our needs met when we don't know what they are. So we have to check in, okay? Asking yourself questions. And I'm going to give you 5 areas. And if you're a journaler and you want to write these down, I like to check in with myself on these 5 areas. And I like to use a little rating scale from 1 to 10. 1 being this area is kind of a disaster, and 10 being like I am killing it in this area, right? And these areas, check in with yourself. How am I doing mentally, right? Am I getting intellectual stimulation, right? Do I feel like I'm learning and growing? Am I having interesting conversations? Am I actively pursuing a goal, right? Second one, emotionally, how am I feeling? Am I allowing myself to express my feelings, or am I distracting myself away from feelings? Do I have somebody that I feel I can be open and vulnerable with? Okay. Third area is physically. How am I feeling physically? What would my body say to me if I let it talk? Right? Am I taking care of myself? Okay. The next one is spiritually. How am I taking care of myself spiritually? Do I feel connected to something bigger? Right. For some people, spirituality means religion. For other people, it doesn't. Right. For other people, spirituality maybe means creativity or nature, right? Or meditation, right? Lots of ways we can connect spiritually. And then last one is relationally. How am I doing relationally, right? What's the quality of my relationships like? Okay. Do I have people in my life who are encouraging me to sort of be my best self? Okay. So spend time alone with yourself, like you are somebody you love and care about, and do a check in. Ask yourself some of those questions, right? Or maybe even just simply ask yourself, what do I need right now to restore, to recharge? Okay. All right. Number 4. This one is tricky for people. This one is all about setting boundaries with your time, with your energy. A lot of people are people pleasers, right? We feel guilty, we feel bad saying no. But I'm going to really ask you to protect your energy, because nobody else is going to do that job for you. You have to step in and protect your energy. So I'm going to ask you to start setting healthy boundaries by saying yes more selectively, right? Many of us use yes as a reflex and then say yes to something we don't want to do and then try to get out of it later, right? So instead, when an opportunity comes your way, I want you to think about it, right? If somebody says to you, hey, do you want to grab dinner next Friday? We don't need to say, yeah, that sounds great. And then think, oh man, my week is packed. That is just not going to work for me. Now I'm going to have to get out. Instead, we can say something like, that sounds like a great opportunity. Let me think about it and check my schedule, and I'll let you know in a day or two. It's okay for us to do this. And this is where I'm going to circle back to number 1, knowing what matters most to you. When opportunities come your way, it's a lot easier for us to sort of understand, is this something that is worth my time and energy right now? Right? We can look at our list and then we can decide. And I'm also going to blow your mind right now. You can say no without explaining and justifying. you can just say no. And I know that's hard. I have a lot of clients say, Michelle, but it's so hard for me to do that because I have FOMO and I'm worried if I do that, that I won't get invited again. And I say, well, you can just say no in a very kind way. You can even say no regretfully without explaining. Like, for example, if Connie invited me to dinner next week and I couldn't make it, I could say to Connie, Connie, I'm so sorry that I'm not able to make our dinner date next week. I really look forward to rescheduling it. Right? I could say that. Or I could say, Connie, I'm sorry I can't make it to dinner next week. My daughter has a piano lesson at 5 and I have to like rush home from work, pick her up from piano, get her home, cook her dinner. My husband's working late that day. Well, you know what? Actually, I might be able to get my mother-in-law to pick her up. So you know what? I think I can probably go. We do that. We talk ourselves out of the boundary we really want to set when we start over explaining. Also, when we over explain our no, sometimes we ruminate about it later. Like, should I have said all that? Was that a good enough excuse? No, it is empowering and it feels so good just to say, I'm really sorry I can't make it. And guess what? If I'm worried that Connie is not going to invite me to dinner again, well, I have the option of hosting a dinner and inviting her, right? Yeah. Yeah. So start being more selective with your yeses. I love yeses. Yeses are bold. Yeses are beautiful. Yeses allow us to experience abundance, but only yeses that align with that list of our priorities. Okay. So that's number 4 for you. Number 5, and we sort of touched on this when I talked about paying attention to what you're consuming, but it's 2022, it's post pandemic. We've been living in a virtual world. So this also deserves its own discussion. And if you want to create balance in your life, you absolutely have to start honestly evaluating your relationship with the digital world. Of course, I'm talking about social media, but I'm also talking about access to 24-hour news. I'm talking about looking at the stock market. I'm talking about online shopping. I'm talking about the never ending barrage of group texts and emails and advertisements. Okay. We have to start recognizing that this constant stimulation from the digital world is overwhelming our nervous systems. It's overwhelming our nervous system. It's keeping us in a perpetual state of fight or flight. Okay. We have to start setting some boundaries, right, with the digital world. And this is going to look different for everybody. I mean, when I'm talking about the digital world, I'm also talking about streaming and, spending time on Netflix and Hulu, right? I'm talking about all of the things that pull us away from connecting with ourselves. Okay. Most of the things we're doing digitally cause us to live in a reactionary state. We're reacting rather than living with intention, rather than being proactive. Okay. So, really, this is a great place to, again, use that idea of, am I getting a good return for my investment of energy? I'm absolutely not against social media. That's where Connie and I met, right? Was on a Facebook page. But I think it's important to use that check-in method, right? If you're somebody and you just spent 2 hours sort of scrolling Instagram and TikTok, after those 2 hours, it might be a good idea to just check in with yourself. Like, how am I feeling now? Am I feeling, more motivated and focused, or less? Am I having healthier thoughts about my friendships and my relationship or my body right now, or less? Right? And if we're not having healthy thoughts after spending time on social media or reading the news, we might want to rethink how much energy we're giving that. Okay. So that's number 5. We're halfway there. So, again, I want you to start noticing which of these are resonating with you, right? Because not all of the strategies are going to be priorities for you right now. That's why I want you to have this toolbox, because we're always changing, we're always growing. So, what tool is going to work for you right now to create more balance in your life might be different than what it will be 6 months from now and a year from now. Okay. All right. Number 6, we just talked a little bit about living in fight or flight. We just talked a little bit about central nervous system activation. So, the 6th strategy I'm going to give you for creating more balance in your life is to make space for self care, relaxation, and mindfulness. Okay. I'm sort of lumping these 3 things together because basically what I'm asking you to do is I am asking you to step in with some intention daily to soothe and restore your central nervous system. So many of us are living in this sympathetic state, right? So our central nervous system is divided into 2 branches: our sympathetic and our parasympathetic. Our sympathetic branch is our fight or flight. Okay. Our parasympathetic branch is what is known as rest and digest, sort of smooth muscle relaxation, right? Many of us are living in fight or flight. And the problem is when our sympathetic nervous system is activated, right, it sends signals to our brain. Actually, we have a little part of our brain called the amygdala. That's kind of like the crisis response center. It's always scanning our environment, right, for any problems, anything that we need to tend to. So when we're in the sympathetic state, it tells our brain, yeah, there's a crisis. There's something going on that we need to tend to. And our brain is our job, right, is to keep us safe. So in that moment, our brain produces a chemical reaction that is not helping us. Okay. That chemical reaction is a decrease in a very important hormone called serotonin. We really want serotonin in our brain. It's sort of our grounding, calming hormone. Okay. But at the same time, serotonin is going down, the stress hormone cortisol is going up. Okay. And it makes sense because think about it. If you were being chased by a bear, okay, you would not want a whole bunch of calming hormone in your brain, right? You would want less calming hormone and you would want more cortisol. But what I'm getting at is our brain and central nervous system is very primitive. That amygdala is not differentiating between you being chased by a bear and you not getting enough likes on your Instagram post. Your brain's interpreting the crisis the same way and it's reacting the same way. So when we think about all of these sort of external and internal stressors that we face daily, if we're not stepping in, if we're not doing things with intention to soothe our nervous system to move into that parasympathetic, we are living with low levels of serotonin and high levels of cortisol. And I have to tell you, I mean, almost daily, right? I get contacted by someone in my private practice who says, Michelle, I really need to work with somebody because I have brain fog, low energy, low motivation. I'm super irritable. I'm easily triggered. I have low libido. I'm not sleeping well. I'm craving high carb or high sugar foods, right? And my first thought is, okay, so you're living in your sympathetic nervous system and we're dealing with an overhaul of cortisol. Okay. I always get a little fiery when I talk about this because I just really want you to feel empowered and know that there are so many natural ways that you can influence what goes on in your central nervous system. You know, some of the things that I would recommend, right, would be journaling, right? And again, remember the law of little things. You don't have to start a half hour a day journaling practice if that doesn't work for you, but even a simple gratitude journal, right? What are 3 things I'm grateful for? What are 3 things that are working for me, right? Having a regular sort of ritualized journaling practice is a great way to soothe our nervous system. I mean, breath work. All right. I cannot say enough about how important breath is. Right. And some science around breath work. Breath work moves us into that parasympathetic state pretty quickly by stimulating the vagus nerve, which is the nerve at the base of our skull. Right. So breath work, so many great breathing techniques out there. Right. If you're interested, you can easily do a little YouTube, or if you sign up for, any of the Headspace or Calm apps or even Peloton, where it has some guided breath work activities. But I'll make it so simple for you. In order to activate that vagus nerve, you really just need an exhale that's longer than your inhale, right? So breathing in for 4, holding for 4, and breathing out for 7. Yeah, doing that a few times a day. Mantras and affirmations, another great way to practice mindfulness, right? Choosing a few things that make you feel really good, really empowered. Maybe something along the lines of, I am in charge of my own happiness. Or maybe something like, I've done enough. I am enough. Or maybe I have something of value to offer this world. I move through this world with peace and ease. I choose to be gentle with myself today. Today, I commit to being present, right? All sorts of great mantras and affirmations, right? Pick one or two. It's another great way to practice mindfulness, right? A lot of people really resist a mindfulness practice because they feel like if they're not immediately Deepak Chopra, right, they're not doing it right. Remember, keep your eyes on your own paper. Let Deepak Chopra have his own meditation practice, and you have your own. I often start clients who have never meditated at all. Say, okay, what if? What if we started it this way? What if after a meal, you sit quietly at the table for 3 deep breaths, resisting the urge to jump up and start cleaning? What if that's how you start meditation, right? It is absolutely okay for you to start where you are. Deepak Chopra started as a beginner, right? I want you to just start where you are with these mindfulness techniques, okay? And then lots of other things we can do, right, to rejuvenate our nervous system. For some people, it's getting out in nature, right? For some people, it's tapping into creativity. For other people, it's listening to music. For other people, it's the feeling of water. Maybe taking a bath or shower does it for you, okay? Yeah. So that's your 6th strategy, is to really create some space in your life with intention to soothe and rejuvenate your nervous system every day. I want your body to work for you, not against you. Right. So I want your cortisol levels. I want your serotonin. I want your central nervous system, right, to be working for you, to not be in this high state of anxiety. Okay. Tip number 7, be intentional about how you integrate your physical body into your life. And you're probably like, that is a weird thing to say, Michelle. I know, right? Integrating your physical body into your life. Many of us don't have intention with how we move, with how we sit, with how we stand. Right? So, of course, I'm talking about moving our body for health and physical fitness, right? That's one way to intentionally incorporate your physical body into your life. But so is paying attention to your body language, right? Are we sitting closed off, right? Are we not opening our heart chakra, our throat chakra, right? Are we always sort of closed off to the world? I mean, we know that body language sends signals to other people about our intentions or what we're thinking, but we send those same signals to ourselves as well. We want our body to be a reflection of how we want to feel, right? So if we want to feel confident, right, we have to have our body be confident, right? And we can do some great yoga poses, right? We could do superhero pose, we could do a star pose, right? Even just a nice chest opener. So pay attention to your body language. I actually look at our body a lot like plumbing, and we don't want to have a whole bunch of like kinked garden hoses throughout our body blocking our energy, right? We really want this nice clear flow of energy from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet. Okay. So making sure we're moving our body with some intention throughout the day. One other way we can incorporate our body into our life daily is some maybe compassionate self touch, right? Maybe that looks like taking a few minutes to rub your jaw if you've been clenching it during the day, right? Maybe it's giving yourself a nice little scalp massage, right? If you're feeling tense, right? Maybe it's giving yourself a nice big yogi hug, right? If you're feeling like you need a little extra support. You know, self compassion is sort of a hot topic now, right? Dr. Kristen Neff is a really great resource for self compassion, and she's a big advocate of compassionate self touch, really getting the release of oxytocin, right? Even with our own movements. Okay, so that's your tip number 7, to really start being intentional about how you integrate your physical body into your life. Tip number 8, if you want to live a true life in balance, please recognize you are not meant to do it alone. I want you to seek support. I want you to ask for help. I want you to start letting yourself believe that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of intelligence. Okay. People love to share their strengths with others. Okay. Connie reached out and asked me to come speak to you. I was honored to do so. I'm excited to share my strength with you. But I wouldn't know what Connie needed if she didn't ask me, right? So I'm going to give you a little nugget here, and I want you to really take it with you. The worst way to get our needs met is hinting. We have to stop hinting to other people about what our needs are. When we do that, we create a secondary problem. First problem is our need didn't get met because people aren't mind readers. And the second problem is now we're angry. Right? So I want you to seek support, and I want you to do it by being clear, right? And again, this circles back to number 2 or number 3, right? Which was spending time alone, checking in with yourself, asking yourself what it is you need. Once you're clear on what you need, you can figure out, how can you get this need supported? Who could help you with that? And how could I clearly express it? Okay. And also under this realm of seeking support is the really, really cringy idea of delegation. Delegating can be so difficult for so many people, right? Because when we delegate, we give up control. Again, this circles back to knowing what matters most to you. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have 5 things, man, these are the 5 things that really give my life meaning and purpose. These are the 5 things that matter most to me. Guess what? You don't have to delegate those 5 things. Hold on to those 5 things. Those 5 things can be yours. But that means it might be okay for you to delegate number like 30 on the list, or 50, or 75, right? You don't need to have complete and utter control over the 75th most important thing to you. You just don't. And when we delegate number 30, number 50, and number 75, it frees up more space for us to spend on numbers 1 through 5. Okay. Very important. Seek support. It's out there, but it usually doesn't find you. Usually people are not good at guessing what you need, right? Ask for it and do not be scared to delegate. All right. Number 9. I could talk a whole hour on this one, but I'm literally just going to plant a seed for you to start thinking about managing expectations. Okay. What do I mean by that? I mean that many of us spend our precious time and energy not on our list of what matters most to us, but based on what we think other people want from us, whether it be our children, our partners, our parents, our friends, our, coworkers, right? This idea that we live based on other people's expectations. We're not meant to do that. It's our birthright to live in a way that allows us to be the best version of us. Okay? And of course, we all have responsibilities. But that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about when we're making a choice to put other people's needs over our own. Okay? There's a quote that I really like that I like to use with myself. And the quote says something along the lines of, my life is more meaningful when my behavior is pulled from inspiration rather than obligation, right? We get to a certain age in our life where we say, I've earned it. I've earned the right to live inspired. I've earned the right to live according to what matters to me. I've earned the right to follow my, right? And you have. And life based on obligation, one-way ticket to burnout, right? So managing expectations, really just starting to notice, all right, when you're living for others and where we need to maybe create some boundaries around that. Okay. Last one, definitely not the least though, right? And that is to practice self-compassion. Okay. I'm going to tell you, I've seen people try to bully themselves into having a more balanced life, but it doesn't really work. We need to be kind to ourselves. We need to give ourselves permission to make mistakes. I told you earlier that, as a therapist and a life coach, growth, personal growth is very important to me. I want to see people grow. I want to see people improve. But there's really 2 things that I see come up that stop growth dead in its tracks. And those 2 things are shame and guilt. Okay. When people are carrying around a lot of shame and guilt, it really doesn't motivate them to be better. It really doesn't motivate them, right, to follow their path. In fact, I see shame and guilt usually makes people hide, usually makes people regress, usually makes people try to distract themselves from those uncomfortable feelings, right? So instead of shame and guilt, I want you to recognize that as you move through life, as you move through your human experience, you're just collecting data along the way, right? You don't have to shame yourself over how you spent your time and energy yesterday or last week or last month. All you have to do is sort of collect the data and go, okay, what I did yesterday did not set me up to be my best version of me. What could I do differently today? Right? That's self-compassion. Okay. So those are the 10 strategies I have for you. Like I said, 10 tools in your toolbox, right? And again, integrating those into your life with some consistency. It's not how much you do, it's how consistent you are with doing it. Okay, so if anybody has comments or questions or just wants to chat about any of these tools or anything about balance in general, I'm up for it.
Well, I just thank you very much because I'm just eating all this information up so I can share it with my daughter who's been, being a little anxious. She's a teenager and
Mm,
all of this just hits home. I'm going to be sharing all of this. And I knew this before, but it's been an interesting 2 years and I've moved and all my notes about, neuro anyway, all the stuff that are, used to preach, I've kind of forgotten. So thank you. I love it.
yeah. Well, and you make such a good point. I often get asked, like, how do I get my kids on board with this? Or how do I get my partner on board with this? And I always say, share it. But really, the best thing to do is role model it, right? Do these strategies, have her see you, and have people see that it's working for you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Our kids really,
sure.
I have a teenager too, and our kids really watch what we do sometimes more than listen to what we say.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. No, I will definitely be using it for me too. I came here for me, so I won't
Very
just be
cool.
handing it off to her, I promise. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
cool. Well, thank you.
Um, can I say something?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was making notes of everything, and I have to say, um, it was so many things that resonated with my personality. Like, yes, I do this. Yes, I do this, sort of thing. And I know people tell me that. My husband knows me really well, so when he can see that I'm overthinking, he'd be like, it's okay to say no. You don't have to give people explanation. And I'll be like, hey, you know what? This is what I'm going to say. He'll be like, remove all those lines. Only one line will do. And I will be here sitting, oh no, that's rude. I'm supposed to tell them exactly why I cannot give them the time. Or there is this thing in me. I know. And it took me years to realize that I'm a people pleaser. I just cannot. I feel it's rude to say no. I have this tendency to say yes because I feel it's the right thing to say.
Yeah.
Those things, and so many things in the last few years I've realized that body is evaluating stress as stress. It doesn't see, oh, this is valid stress. This, she says, overthinking. Your body just evaluates the same. And I used to get this, my body would just know. I would have more hair fall, I would have more body aches. And my one of my closest friends, she is a yoga practitioner. And throughout my life, many people would be like, "Oh, are you always thinking? Why are you always thinking?" And I never knew what they meant. That it's like, you always look very busy. What is it? And I didn't understand what they meant because I didn't see what they were seeing. And I would get like, I think I would be angry or offended. Like, why are you judging me? I'm just sitting here. And then it's taken me so long to realize, oh, my mind is constantly working, which is making me tired, which makes me exhausted. And I'll be very snappy at times because my mind is exhausted, nothing based on what happened, really. So those things, when the way you presented it, kind of, I think, even though you've heard it before, like Hina mentioned, it's just helped put it in points. It's just really helpful. So I was just making those notes because every point I felt had so much weight in it. I didn't want to forget it. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because I do this when I'm exhausted, when I have too many things to do. I will just push everything away and I'll be like, okay, I can't deal with this. I'm going to look at Facebook. And then
We
I
distract
eventually
ourselves.
yeah, and eventually I haven't really achieved anything except look up a bunch of useless stuff, which entertained for a few minutes, but didn't really help what I actually have to do except push it away and then give me more stress. Oh no, I should have done it 1 hour ago. Even if it is something as simple as making lunch or getting some paperwork done. So those things are just, I feel there's so much of conscious needed to say, okay, this is not important right now. Maybe I should just do some breathing instead of looking at it. So yes,
Yeah.
so helpful, really.
Oh, good. I love that. I mean, it sounds like your word of the day is sort of intention, right? What am I going to be intentional with? And when you're talking about that overthinking all the time, right? That's what Buddha calls our monkey mind, right? Our monkey mind is always going. And the interesting thing about monkey mind is it really pulls us away from the present moment, because usually when we're overthinking, it's not about what's right in front of us, right? We're overthinking something that already happened, or we're worrying about something that could potentially happen, right? So learning how to be mindful and pull ourselves back into the present moment is a really great way to sort of soothe that monkey mind.
Sorry, my kid just needs me for something.
Oh,
So
no
yeah, I
problem.
just have to step out real quick.
Sure.
And yeah, sorry. Yeah, bye.
I'm happy to take any other questions, or if anyone just wants to chat, we could do that too.
Michelle, you had brought up about balance doesn't mean equal proportions, and it's different to different things. So how do we recognize when we're in balance?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that check-in, right? That check-in really helps. So especially if we use that rating scale from 1 to 10, if we see like, okay, I'm an 8, intellectually or mentally, because I'm giving, all sorts of my energy to work, and I'm really feeling like I'm thriving at work and achieving and getting ahead. But maybe we're giving relationally a 1 and we're giving physically a 2, right? That's a good example that we're out of balance, because all of those areas are important to us. And again, they might not all need to be equal. Like we don't have to give everything a 5, right? Maybe right now work is really important. There's a big project we're working on. So maybe we really want work to hover around an 8. But that doesn't mean that the other areas have to be 1. Right? What could we do? And that's why it's really important to ask ourselves that question. What do I need right now? Right? And sometimes it's just about bringing it up 1 or 2 numbers, right? Maybe if relationally we're hovering at like a 2, we're not getting along very well with our partner, or not feeling connected with our partner, or we're not really feeling like we have much of a social life. Okay, well, maybe we don't expect to get that to an 8 overnight, but what could we do to bring it up to a 3 or a 4? Could we schedule a coffee date with a friend we haven't seen in a while? Could we approach our partner and say, you know what, I'm really feeling disconnected. Could we have a little one-on-one time? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Of course.
So, there's things that we can have issues with, and we can look at it and see if we're balanced there, and make adjustments of our expectations. But what if it's something, I mean, like I was laid off from a job, right? So recently, so I mean, like not having an income, like stuff like that, just trying to de-stress from that, you know what I mean? Because it's like a very anxious feeling, obviously.
Mhm.
So, like how do I have a hard time being present, I guess the breathing exercises are the most helpful thing. But I don't know. I don't see how I can ever feel balanced until I get a job.
Yeah.
I guess is my point.
No, and I understand that, right? That sometimes there's going to be something, if I'm working with a client who's going through a divorce, right? Or they've just become an empty nester for the first time and they're really struggling, or even a client who's retiring, right? Because that's a big life transition. I mean, what you're talking about is trying to stay balanced in a state of transition.
Yes,
And
very big.
Yeah.
in many
and
ways.
that might not be possible. We might not be
Yeah.
able to feel fully and balanced
Yeah,
during a transition, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we have to feel out of control. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we can't feel empowered, right? And
exactly.
yeah,
I like what you said about the expectations. Maybe we do need to adjust our expectations. Like right now, I'm not where I was 2 years ago, where I could just go out to Olive Garden and take 3 of my children. You know what I mean? Like so I have to lower my expectations, I think, and that will help my anxiety, doesn't it? Oh my gosh, I just realized that. That's really cool.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what you said.
Absolutely.
Oh man, that's very helpful, actually. Good reminder. Okay, thank you.
Well, and I feel like you helped yourself, right? Because what I saw you do in that moment was basically ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need
Yeah.
in this moment to feel better? Right.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when my clients are asking a lot of why questions, why did this happen? Why is my life like this right now? I say, switch the why
Mhm.
to a what. What could I do right now to feel better? What could I do right now
Yeah.
to lower my anxiety? And
Yeah.
it sounded like you asked yourself that question and then you answered it. What I need to do is just,
Yes.
yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
did today. Yeah, it went really well actually, because I'm selling a couch for $800. So that's going to cover the rest of the rent, right? And then I have a job lined up for it, but it doesn't start till December 1st. So I'm like, it's a nail biter till then, and I start a seasonal job tomorrow. It's a honey baked ham. So I get to eat every day for free and have a ham for
Fun.
Thanksgiving, right? But
Yeah.
just like, oh, so okay, I'm gonna make it. And it's interesting because that's like what I want to do. I want to inspire women to and pull them out of poverty, really, and bring them away from violence. And I was in a wonderful situation, and I had for years financially, and I was married and I was helping women. And here I am now. Isn't that interesting? And a good friend of mine who's a millionaire and like amazing and successful, she said, Tina, I think you're going through this because that's the best way you're going to be able to help women in the future, right? Like if you've actually lived that journey. And I was like, oh, that's deep. Okay. I just hope it's fast. I don't want this to be taking very long.
Well, I'll say a few things. I think your friend is right, because I've always believed that the best way to heal others is to heal yourself and then share.
Yeah, true.
Right. I really think that that's the best way. And I really also think even when life transitions are tough and challenging, I still want to be present during them, right? Because we can learn, we can grow, right? Growth isn't always comfortable. We've heard of growing pains.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need to feel a little uncomfortable, but it's okay. You have done hard things in the past, and you can do hard things now.
Yes, it's so true. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is
Thanks.
great. I appreciate this. This is great support.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? We don't want to hold Michelle up anymore. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie. I had a lot of fun coming and
Good.
talking to your group, and I'm always happy to answer any questions. I'm sure you probably in my bio put my website, so if anybody wants to reach out, they're always welcome to. I do virtual sessions all over the country, and I'm also just happy to answer any questions or any clarification as we sort of let this information simmer. Right.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
Yeah, questions might come up later.
Okay, I'll definitely share your website with everybody else as well.
Perfect.
That
sounds
would be great.
Yeah. Thank you for
so
your
much.
time. Really, I think it's a different time zone and it's probably late, but thank you so much for your
Of
time,
course.
Connie, Michelle, Tina, Sandy,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
great
you.
night.
Thank you all,
Anyways.
and I would be happy to chat with your group again if
Thank
the
you.
need arises. Yeah, I always have a good time.
Thank
Great.
you. Thank you so much.
Talking with like-minded women is my passion for sure. So
Sure.
yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, have a
Thanks
beautiful,
so much.
have a beautiful Thanksgiving holiday, everybody.
You
You
too.
too.
You
You
too.
too.
All right.
Bye.
Happy
Bye-bye.
Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Bye.